is Tahara and you are watching another episode of High Event. Today, the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects provides a series of memorial orations on architectural educators with a special remembrance to Professor Peiris, who was a renowned architect in Sri Lanka. So stay tuned as we bring to you more on this only on High Events.
I will introduce my presentation with a quote regarding Professor Peiris from Sir Arthur C. Clarke. I quote, "Professor Peiris's accomplishments are too numerous to enfold. He is considered an extremely versatile professional." Sir Arthur C. Clarke, Chancellor of the University of Moratuwa, 1979 to 2002, unquote. Professor Peiris was a visionary educator, dedicated professional, talented musician, humorous magician, and who had a passion for cricket. Devoted husband, loyal friend, and he's best known as an experienced mentor to students and contemporaries, as well as a cheerful, content, humane guru to us all. This is the DNA of the legendary guru.
When I was asked to deliver the first oration on a series of orations about the teachers who have taught us, I also thought of my time as a teacher. And one of the great things about being a teacher at some point is to see some of the people that you might have spoken with, might have guided, actually becoming a success in life. And I can quite imagine the hundreds of times that Professor Peiris might have enjoyed himself when he saw more and more of his students succeeding in life, becoming great architects, becoming lots of other things, as Shirani, another teacher of mine, mentioned about Professor Peiris. Of course, when I was asked to do this oration, I was, of course, in the middle of another rather a big task I had taken on myself, which was to celebrate my other guru, Geoffrey Bawa's 100th birth anniversary that falls this year. But I think it might have been Shayan's tone of voice and his rather charming way of speaking that I rather foolishly said, yes, I'll do that for you. And today here I stand, being slightly nervous if I'm probably going to do justice for the first of these orations that respect our teachers. And many years ago, in first year, as I had come into class and was trying to talk about an object with my, at that time, experiencing architecture teacher, C. Anjalendran, he listened to me talk about a dead leaf and a fresh leaf because I had completely forgotten what I had to do that day, which was to bring an object I liked and an object I didn't like. I went on to sort of give a 10-minute lecture on why I liked the dead leaf and I didn't like the live leaf. And he got up and he said, "Thank you very much." And he looked at the class and he said, "Look, here's a man who can talk about a white wall for hours. And architecture can become a little bit more meaningful in our lives than those monuments that we make. Even while we make these monuments, I think we can think for a little bit and perhaps think of how there's a little part of that building that might do something of everything that I have shown you that will engage with the spirit of somebody walking through and talking about." Because in the end, as the great John Ruskin said in his book, The Stones of Venice, you were made for enjoyment. And the world was filled with things which you will enjoy unless you are too proud to be pleased with them or too grasping to care for what you cannot turn to other account than mere delight. Remember that the most beautiful things in the world are the most useless, like peacocks and lilies. And may I add, shadows and sunsets. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
I wish to extend a warm welcome to all of you gathered here this evening. Here we are celebrating the life and works of Vidya Jyoti, Professor Emeritus K.R.S. Peiris, as the first amidst his near and dear ones. The names of exemplary personalities are just not limited to these names mentioned. We found an outstanding prodigy of the great master Geoffrey Bawa, whose work has been internationally recognized, winning him many an international commission. A much decorated and sought after architect, Channa Daswata had his beginnings under the great guru of our time, C. Anjalendra, working out of his veranda, as I remember. Thank you, Channa, for agreeing to be an honored orator, to speak of architecture for the spirit. Professor Shirani Balasurya, who has been very much a part of Professor K.R.S. Peiris' life and work at the University of Moratuwa, spelling out his citation. Shirani is a pioneer of her own strength in landscape architecture, a wonderful teacher. Thank you, Auntie Rini, for gracing this occasion with your close relatives. Your presence here certainly took this event to a different dimension. Finally, I would like to thank my depleting BAE staff for the progressive work. I wish to thank President and the Council for giving the BAE the mandate to explore this initiative.
I'm with the president of SLIA, Varanjan Kulkurusurya. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well, thank you very much.
So could you give us the importance of today's event for as architects? How is this important to you?
Yeah, this is actually the first of a series of lectures delivered to honor our architectural educators who had actually taught us and made us what we are, and it is in memory of them. And the lecture will be delivered by another contemporary architect, a successful architect. So what we are trying to do is we are going to have 2 such events every year.
I'm with one of the chairmen for the committee. How are you doing today, sir?
Good.
So could you tell me the importance of today's event? Because as an architect and for educators, this is a very significant event for you all. Can you just give me a bit more on that?
Yes, I think we love to remember our teachers, and we always say that we are what we are today because of our teachers. So I thought this was a very interesting start by the president of the SLIA, Varanjan, and he wanted to start this series of orations. So the plan is to have 2 orations per year, remembering the great teachers who have actually taught us architecture and who are not living with us anymore. And thereby I think we invited Channa Daswata, a celebrity architect and also an architect well known, and we invited him to give the first oration. The other very important and interesting thing here is that Professor Peiris, whom we are celebrating today, with my era, I passed out in about 20 years ago. So the present generation or the present architects would not even know who Professor Peiris was and his contribution towards the architectural education and also the profession.
I'm with architect Channa. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Today you will be presenting a series of memorial educators and architectural educators. Could you give me a bit more on this?
Well, I think you could ask the organizing committee, but it's a very nice thing to have started, that you kind of begin to recognize architectural educators as much as star architects. Educators, I think, very important in all our lives, and today's particular person we're talking about, Professor K.R.S. Peiris, was my first professor as well. So it's really been, I think, hats off to the organizing committee and Nela and Cheyenne for having organized this thing. and come up with the idea that somehow teachers who often don't get recognized, we us architects somehow get awards and this and that, but teachers often don't. And I think it's nice to remember them and talk about them. And it's important, they're an important legacy.
I'm with architect Nela De Zoiza. Nela, how are you doing today?
Oh, fine, but I've got a handful.
Nela, today's event is very important as architectural educators, especially because they're being recognized for the work they've been doing.
Yeah, that's right, because we felt that the young students, the people of today, don't know the history of what has happened. We need to educate them, to, tell them who were the architecture educators, who brought architecture education to Sri Lanka, all that. So we've decided to have this series of lectures, the orations, the orations, to honor the people who have really contributed and brought architecture education to Sri Lanka.
I'm with Shirani Balasurya, who's a senior consultant for the Department of Architecture. She was also a student for Professor Peiris. So how are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm fine. I'm really honored that I get the privilege of doing the citation for Professor Peiris on behalf of all the students. So I feel really honored.
Past student of Professor Peiris. Can you give me a bit more on him?
Yeah. He was known as the fatherly guru because he was accessible to all students and the mentor for most students. And along with his work, he realized that the students was coming first. That was the most important thing, not work, being mentoring to the students.
So as an architect, and this is a very important thing for you all, to recognizing past architects and the work you all do. For that, could you tell me the importance of having such an event today to recognize you all?
Yeah, this is the first event that is organized by the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects. And Professor Peiris has been working for 32 years in academia. So I think it's a fitting tribute to him. And his wife, who is 93 years old, is in the audience. So we feel that is going to be a very special event.
I'm with Professor Peiris' wife. He's being recognized today at this architectural event. Ma'am, could you give me a bit more on your husband? Because he is apparently one of the most renowned educators in architect. As an architect, how you saw his true passion at home. How would you describe that?
Architect, he had 100% love for architecture, and he was ready at any time to go out of his way to help the students. When they were working in the night, he takes some these short eats and goes to see them.
All right, ma'am. Thank you very much, and I'm sure you're very proud of your husband today.
Yes, not only today. From the day we got married, he was a good husband, very good husband.
I'm with Professor Lakshman Alves, who took over for Professor Peiris. So how are you doing today?
Oh, very well. I retired in 2004 myself, and I'm practicing as an architect, Design Consortium Limited. I'm the chairman. So we are doing all right. It's one of the largest companies in Sri Lanka.
This event is very large for architects because you're recognizing the educators. Can you give me a bit more on this?
Yeah, this is very important because you are recognizing the pioneer professor of architecture, Dr. K.R.S. Peiris. He was also my teacher. He was a very kind man. He was very concerned about the students more than anyone else.
Today, educational architectures were renowned and recognized for their important work in Sri Lanka. Especially a renowned architect, Professor Peiris, was recognized for his very important architectural work in the country. You saw it all today, only on HA Events. And this is me, Tehara, signing out for today.